The key scraped inside the lock like it didn't recognize me. I stood on my own front porch with grocery bags cutting into my fingers, staring at a deadbolt that hadn't been there when I left 3 days ago. The metal was shiny, new. There was a small black camera above the door, angled down like it had been waiting. My reflection looked strange in the lens, smaller somehow. I tried the key again, slower, feeling the resistance travel up into my wrist. Nothing. That's when my phone started vibrating in my coat pocket, long and steady, the way it does when someone really needs you to answer. I didn't look. I already knew it was my son. You don't change a mother's locks unless you've decided she doesn't live there anymore. My name is Elaine Whitmore. I'm 66 years old, and I've lived in this house in Franklin County, Ohio for 31 years. The porch boards still creak in the same spot near the railing, and if you stand close enough to the front window in the morning, you can smell the maple tree out back when the sun hits it. My husband planted that tree the year our son Nolan turned 8. Richard has been gone 4 years now, pancreatic cancer, the kind that moves faster than your brain can accept. After the funeral, the house didn't feel haunted or heavy. It just felt unfinished, like a sentence that had stopped mid-word. Nolan started coming by more often after that. He brought groceries I didn't ask for, fixed a loose hinge that wasn't bothering me, sat at my kitchen table and watched me longer than usual while I made coffee. At first, I told myself that's what good sons do when their father dies. They step in, they check on their mother, they make sure she's not alone too much. But Nolan never does anything without thinking 3 steps ahead. He works in commercial real estate. He understands leverage. He understands timing. About 6 months after Richard passed, Nolan showed up with paperwork. He said it was just in case something happened to me, a durable financial power of attorney. He talked quickly, like he didn't want me focusing too hard. Said it would let him pay bills or talk to insurance if I was ever in the hospital. I remember the pen feeling heavier than it should have. I remember reading parts of it and telling myself I'd go over it again later. I didn't. Grief makes simple things feel exhausting. After that, he started mentioning the house in small ways. It's a lot to maintain alone. Those stairs could get dangerous in winter. You could sell and move somewhere easier. He never said he wanted it. He said he wanted me safe. The thing that bothered me wasn't what he said, it was how closely he watched my face while he said it, like he was measuring whether I was ready. Then one afternoon, about 18 months after Richard died, I was cleaning out my file cabinet. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of paper sliding against paper. I pulled out the power of attorney Nolan had brought me and read it again, this time slower, this time without him sitting across from me. And that's when I saw the real estate clause. Authority to execute deeds, authority to transfer property, not just pay utilities, not just talk to insurance, transfer property. I sat there at the kitchen table with the late afternoon light hitting the wood grain, and I felt something cold settle right behind my ribs. I didn't call Nolan, I called my attorney. If you want to see what happened next, stay with me, and if you like stories that reveal what people try to hide, don't forget to like and subscribe. Patricia Alvarez has handled my estate paperwork for over 20 years, and she's the kind of attorney who reads every line twice before she even looks up at you. Her office smells like paper and coffee and that faint lemon cleaner they use on old wood furniture. I sat across from her desk while she went through the power of attorney Nolan had brought me, and I watched her eyes slow down on certain paragraphs. She didn't react right away. She just kept reading. When she finished, she folded her hands and asked me one question. "Did you revoke this?" I told her no. She explained that in Ohio, a properly executed durable financial power of attorney can allow someone to sign real estate documents if the language is broad enough. Mine was broad enough. That didn't mean Nolan owned anything. It meant he could attempt to act on my behalf. Attempt. That word stuck with me. We checked the Franklin County Recorder's website together. Property records are public. Anyone can search them. My name still showed as the owner. No new deed had been recorded. Patricia told me not to confront him. She said, if he thinks you're unaware, he moves in the open. If he knows you're watching, he adjusts. Within 2 days, we signed a formal revocation of the power of attorney. It was notarized, it was sent certified mail, and more importantly, Patricia recorded a notice of revocation with the county, so there would be a public paper trail attached to my property parcel. Then she suggested something else. We transferred my home into a revocable living trust with me as trustee. Control stayed with me, but the title legally changed from me as an individual to me as trustee. The new deed was recorded. On paper, everything was clean. If Nolan tried to use the old document, it wouldn't line up with the current title. Weeks passed. Nolan kept calling, kept dropping by, kept bringing up planning. I acted the same. I made coffee, I nodded, I let him talk. Then one Wednesday morning, Patricia called while I was folding laundry. Her voice was steady, but slower than usual. A deed was presented for recording yesterday. My hands stopped moving. Nolan had attempted to file a transfer deed using the power of attorney. He tried to move the property into an LLC he controlled, but the county rejected it. The ownership no longer matched. The revocation had already been recorded. There was now a documented attempt tied to a revoked authority. That's when my phone buzzed again in my kitchen, Nolan's name across the screen. And that's when I realized this wasn't about suggestions anymore. He had already tried. If you want to see what happened next, stay with me. And if you like stories that reveal what people try to hide, don't forget to like and subscribe. I was in Cincinnati visiting an old friend when Patricia called about the rejected deed. Nolan knew I was out of town. I had mentioned it casually over Sunday dinner, even joked about how quiet the house would be without me rattling around in it. When I pulled into my driveway 3 days later and saw the unfamiliar deadbolt, I understood he hadn't waited. The air smelled like cut grass and hot asphalt. My suitcase wheels bumped against the porch step while I stood there staring at metal that wasn't mine. I tried the key anyway. It stopped halfway. I walked around the house. The side gate was latched from the inside. The back door lock had been changed too. The small camera above the porch blinked red. That's when my phone started ringing again. Nolan. I let it go to voicemail. I didn't pound on the door. I didn't call him screaming. I called the non-emergency police line. When the officer arrived, he was younger than I expected, polite but cautious. I showed him my driver's license with the address. I pulled up the Franklin County property record on my phone, showing the trust's ownership. He knocked on the door. Nolan opened it. He looked surprised to see me standing behind the officer. He started explaining about temporary security upgrades and miscommunication. The officer asked for documentation showing he had legal possession. Nolan couldn't provide a recorded deed. The officer told him plainly that you cannot lock the titled owner out of their own home without a court order. A locksmith was called. The drill bit screamed against the new deadbolt while I stood there with my arms folded, feeling the vibration of metal through the wood. When the door opened, the house smelled the same. Lemon cleaner, old wood, my kitchen clock ticking. Nolan stood in the driveway watching everything fall apart in slow motion. Inside, I set my purse on the counter and put a kettle on, like it was any other afternoon. My hands were steady now. Patricia had already forwarded the attempted deed to the county prosecutor's office, along with the recorded revocation and trust transfer. There was a police report for unlawful lockouts, paper stacked on paper, evidence layered carefully. Nolan walked into the kitchen like he still expected this to turn into a conversation he could manage. I told him to sit down. He did. He started talking about confusion, about trying to protect assets, about me misunderstanding. I let him finish. Then I slid a copy of the recorded revocation across the table. His eyes moved faster than his mouth. I told him this was no longer a family discussion. It was a legal one. And for the first time since Richard died, I watched my son realize he had miscalculated the wrong person. If you want to see what happened next, stay with me. And if you like stories that reveal what people try to hide, don't forget to like and subscribe. The legal process didn't explode overnight. It moved the way most real consequences move. Slow, procedural, steady. The county prosecutor reviewed the attempted deed, the recorded revocation, the trust transfer, and the police report from the lockouts. Nolan hired an attorney within a week. For months, it was filings, continuances, paperwork stacked on paper. I sat in conference rooms that smelled like carpet cleaner and stale coffee, while strangers discussed my house like it was a case number. Nolan avoided looking at me during the first hearing. By the second, he looked tired. The charge was reduced during negotiations: attempted theft and falsification tied to misuse of authority. No dramatic arrest, no courtroom shouting. He accepted a plea agreement: probation, financial penalties, restitution for legal fees, a permanent record that will surface every time someone runs his name in a professional background check. The civil case moved separately. The unlawful lockout meant damages. He paid for the locksmith. He paid for the additional security system I installed after. He paid for the quiet humiliation of having to sign documents acknowledging he had no claim to my property. Brooke filed for divorce halfway through the criminal proceedings. She didn't call me crying. She called me practical, asked for copies of documents, asked about timelines. I send birthday gifts to my grandson directly now. Nolan and I have spoken twice since sentencing. Both conversations were short, controlled. There's no screaming anymore, just distance. The house feels different now, not because anything changed physically, but because I see it clearly. The maple tree out back still drops red leaves every fall. The porch still creaks in the same place. The locks are new, but this time they were installed with my signature on the receipt. I check the county property website once a month, not out of fear, out of habit. The chain of title is clean. My trust sits there in black and white, steady and public. People assume stories like this end with forgiveness or dramatic collapse. They don't. They end with documentation, with boundaries, with consequences written in ink instead of arguments. I loved my son. I still do, in a way that doesn't give him access anymore. That's the part no one prepares you for, that you can care about someone and still refuse to let them stand in your doorway with a locksmith. The day the final restitution payment cleared, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea and listened to the clock tick. The house was quiet again, not unfinished, not fragile, just mine. If you want to see what happened next, stay with me. And if you like stories that reveal what people try to hide, don't forget to like and subscribe.